What is the best gift you can give yourself? How about space or time to create? And you can't do this when your sewing room is filled with UFOs. So right now, what projects do you have on your to-do list that with a little bit of attention, you can push over the finish line? That's exactly what I did last month. So stick with me and I'll show you how I did it. Hi, I'm Karen Brown of Just Get It Done Quilts. I give you tips, tricks, and strategies to help you make the quilt that you want to make. And if you like what you see, please click that subscribe button. In December, while I was preparing for this year's Declutter Challenge, I picked up a small UFO. It was a pincushion kit that my sister-in-law had given me back in 2022. And I was about to add it to the to-do list when a voice came from the back of my mind, give yourself the gift of getting this done. Now, my first reaction was, where did that new age thinking come from? But it repeated itself. Give yourself the gift of getting this done. I took a look at the box and realized I had everything I needed to get this done. I just needed to stuff the pincushion and add some washer weights to hold it down. What was I waiting for? 45 minutes later, the project was done. The packaging was in the recycling bin. It had assumed its spot beside my sewing machine, and I had a nice empty spot on my shelf. It truly felt like I had given myself a gift. So I decided that I needed another gift. I had this box from my new iPhone that I had purchased in October. It's such a good box, I was looking for a way to upcycle it. As well, I had this sheet of wrapping paper from Uppercase, included with my last issue, and it was looking for a project. So I combined them together, giving myself the gift, these two colorful trays for my binding clips. Honestly, I find these trays so much easier to use and manage my clips with that I'm surprised that I'm just discovering this. I was enjoying this, so I decided to give myself the gift of this hot pad by finishing off the beanbag insert. It was 2 scraps sewn together and filled with rice. I think it took me 10 minutes tops. Then I saw this kit that I had been given for Christmas. Instead of putting it away for the year with my holiday fabrics, I just made it now, which was kind of weird since it never even made it onto the to-do list, which is even a better gift. While cleaning up my ironing board station, I found this kit from Dear Annie. It says it's for a small notebook, but I had the great idea that I would use it as a travel caddy for my loose leaf tea that I like to bring with me. Well, it might have been a great idea, but that was 6 years ago. Honestly, it took me less than an hour to make it with 2 fat 8s. I can't wait to use it later this month at QuiltCon. 5 projects tackled. It felt so good, I decided to tackle something bigger. So I'm trying to make my studio space more comfortable, and it had this really ugly corner at the front door. Instead of buying a wardrobe or cabinets from IKEA, my idea was to see if I could pick up a second-hand china buffet with glass doors. I would fill it with quilts on the top and use the bottom for storage. I looked online and found that many buffets were free as long as you went and picked it up. But we no longer own a truck, so I would need to rent a van for the day. But I was worried that if I rented a vehicle, the seller might give the unit to someone else before I got there. It was a chicken and an egg argument going around and around in my brain, taking up a lot of space. So I cried stop. I was going to give myself the gift of getting this done. I found a buffet nearby for free. I found a delivery guy who would pick the unit up, and within 24 hours, I had new to me quilt storage. It did take a morning to clean it up. Then I gathered all my quilts and stacked them inside. Not only was it the perfect piece of furniture for my space, I was able to remove this ugly filing cabinet where I was storing my quilts before. It was 2 gifts for the price of 1. before I go to the next one, let me tell you about today's sponsor, FlexiSpot. Last year, I incorporated a FlexiSpot adjustable desk into my space. It has been so easy with a press of the button to adjust the table height for different activities. Then I tried FlexiSpot's ergonomic chair. It has all the adjustments that I needed to make it fit and support me while I work. But because of the way that my office is laid out, it was fiddly to move it back and forth from my editing table to my sewing station. So I gave myself the gift of adding another chair to my setup. It took less than an hour to put the chair together from the wheels to the headrest. It's been a year of me making adjustments and tweaks to my sewing area to make it comfortable for me to work in. And I think that this second chair is the final piece of the puzzle. My back and arms are supported, my seat is adjusted for how I like to sit while I sew, and if I need to stand, it's a push of the button to make the table the correct height. So if you are looking for a chair that will support you how you like to sit and sew, right now the FlexiSpot sale is on. Use my code FlexiSpot30 to get an extra $30 off their E7 Pro Standing Desk and their C7 ergonomic chair. You don't want to miss this chance. So this paper piece pattern has been hanging around since 2021. It was part of a subscription, but the pattern that went with it, I disliked. But I absolutely love the fabric. So I used the enclosed shape to make these large hexagons, which I thought I would sew together to make a pillow. Well, I fell out of love with pillows back in 2022. So my next thought was maybe I could make a wall quilt out of it. I have this odd, irregular shaped wall in my living space that needs to be brightened up. But pushing these hexagons into a rectangle didn't do much for me either. Then I saw some quilts at a quilt show by Lynn Lee, which made me realize that I could dump the right angles and make the quilt whatever shape I wanted. And I decided upon this arrangement here. Now, getting this odd-shaped quilt to hang on my odd-shaped wall was not going to be easy. Thus, my procrastination with finishing this off. But I have finally come to the decision that I'm not going to quilt it, but use a backing of foam board. First, I tucked in the wings of any pieces that were exposed. Where all the pieces met, I also pressed them so that they spun and laid flat. Then I put the whole thing on top of some foam board. I realized I needed two pieces, which I glued together. Then I cut out the shape and cut to size. Then I trimmed an extra1/4 inch from all the edges. I'm leaving the papers in so that they can keep their shape. So I was able to glue the foam board just to the papers. I figure if I ever need to turn this into a quilt, the fabrics won't be damaged. Then I take some command strips and strategically attach them to the wall, and then to the foam board. And voila, another project is off the to-do list. It was funny how this gifting was altering my thinking. I was actually searching at those projects that I wanted the finished product, but I didn't want to fuss around with the making. During the declutter challenge, I discovered not only upholstery fabrics in my stash, but also all this foam and wadding. And I've held on to them for over 6 years because I wanted to make a very specific cushion, a firm pillow that my arm can rest on while I hand sew to reduce shoulder strain. Again, I have everything I need. I just need to give myself the gift of getting it done. I stack the foam and trim them to size. Then I glue them together. While the glue was drying, I measured the height, width, and depth of the foam and added 1 inch to the measurements. Then I cut the fabric into 2 pieces plus the middle strip. And I had just the right amount of fabric here to make it work. The fraying on this fabric was just awful, but luckily I only needed to sew 2 seams. I left a section on this side open so that I can turn it inside out and stuff the foam inside. Because this foam is so firm, I really had to roughhouse it to get it inside, and the glue didn't hold. But I did manage to get in both pieces in the end, and I closed up the seam with a 12-weight thread. And now the pillow is ready to do its job. I made this ottoman at the workroom back in 2017, and it has proudly sat at my front door until last February when I moved it into my bedroom with my new comfy chair. But it didn't match the colors of my room, and after years of wet coats and bags being dropped on it, it was dirty and some of the colors had run. Luckily, I found another piece of upholstery fabric while I was doing the declutter challenge, and it was big enough to do this job. Honestly, I was on a roll, and it didn't take much to talk me into doing this project. I measured up the ottoman and cut the fabric 1 inch larger. This was an end of bolt fabric, and it also had a direction to it. And you can see that it goes off grain towards the selvages. So I cut the fabric closer to the middle. And since I had this upholstery wadding, I used it first to cover the ottoman. Then I sewed the squares together, and it went on like a glove. I didn't bother covering the bottom because no one was ever going to see it. And now it's done, it's in my special spot. It really does feel like I gave myself a gift. I try to process my scraps as they are produced so that my scraps flow through my sewing space. And I have made several videos about my process and some tips and tricks you could use. However, I'm not always in the mood to process scraps, so I just toss them into this drawer to deal with them later. But lately it feels like I have been processing the same fabrics over and over again, and I was so tired of looking at them. So my last gift of the challenge was to give myself permission to let these scraps go. But of course, the moment I said it, I immediately started panicking and went, no, I can't let them go. So I had a little negotiation with myself. I gave myself to the end of January to use what I wanted. Then the rest had to go. And mostly I stuck with that. I have filled my bonus block tray, and I started 2 new block piles that I can add to over time. So it's the beginning of February, and I do feel great. The Declutter Challenge has truly brought me space, both physically and mentally, to create in the months ahead. But this whole giving myself a gift has unlocked something inside me that I haven't felt before. Maybe it's a new level of self-care, or maybe I've simply undervalued my time. Maybe by calling my efforts a gift, it honors the creating and the creativity. So what do you think? I would appreciate you leaving your take on this in the comments section below. I have an update on my Fire and Ice cruise in June 2024.
Introducing the Capella Cluster Quilt.
This is the project that we'll be working on our days at sea. Bernina sewing machines are provided and space is limited. If you are interested in joining me, Katie Matthews, and RGE Travels aboard the Celebrity Apex for an 11-night cruise to Ireland, Iceland, and Scotland, click on the link below or go to my website, justgetitdonequilts.com, for more information. If you are just finding the Declutter Challenge and would like to do one of your own, I'll leave a link to the Declutter Challenge playlist here. If you are looking for some fast and easy projects, I'm going to leave a link to the Stash Buster series here. Take care, and I'll see you next time.